Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about formal commands. So how to give a command to someone who is above you in the social hierarchy. So your teachers, your parents, your bosses. So usted and ustedes. So we've learned previously how to give commands to peers, like your friends, people who are of equal or lower social status. In other words, two commands. But in Spanish, sometimes you need to give commands to superiors, like a parent, a teacher, or a boss. To do this, there are separate verb endings for usted and ustedes commands. So before we get into it, it will be helpful to remember the present tense. So here's a very brief review of just the regular old present tense for the AR, ER, IR verbs that you learned in Spanish 1. So you'll remember AR verb present tense is o, as, a, amos, ais, an. ER present tense is o, es, e, hemos, es, en. And IR present tense is o, es, e, hemos, is, en. So you'll have to remember that for what's coming next. So there are a couple of steps that you have to follow to form the formal command. So for formal commands in Spanish, let's first talk about how to command someone using usted. So number one, first, you have to start by changing the infinitive into the first person tense of just the regular verb. So if you have the verb tirar, it means to throw, regular AR verb. So first person present tense, I throw, is tiro. So that's the first step. You change tirar into tiro. Second, you have to flip the ending to the opposite infinitive. So put the ER, IR ending on an AR verb and an AR ending to the ER, IR verbs. So you're going to use the corresponding usted, el, ella ending, and you're going to put it on the opposite ending. So for example, with tiro, if you wanted to say she throws, regular present tense would be tira, right? You got tiro becomes tira. But we're going to flip it. So it's going to become tire, right? So we've got our ER, IR endings are e instead of a. So it's going to become tire. You take the ER, IR endings for third person singular and you put it on that AR verb, tire. So the command form of throw to your teacher would be tire. So in formal commands, just one note, the verb does stay the same whether it's affirmative or negative. So you'll remember with two commands, it would be like tira or no tires. You flip it to the U form and the opposite ER, IR ending. But in the usted, it's a little bit easier. It's just tire la basura, throw the trash, or no tire la basura, don't throw the trash. So you might think it's just easier to skip this first step, and for a lot of regular verbs it is, but the reason why it's so important to change the infinitive to the first person present tense first is for the goyo verbs. You have to make it an appropriate goyo verb and then flip the ending. So poner becomes pongo, becomes ponga. You see how you've put it in the first person tense and then you flip the ending. So it's an ER verb, it gets the AR third person ending. Poner, pongo, ponga. Salir, salgo, salga. Tener, tengo, tenga. Decir, digo, diga. Venir, vengo, venga. Hacer, hago, haga. So let's take a look at a few more examples. So if you wanted to say, eat your vegetables, sir. Eat is comer. It becomes coma las verduras, señor. Don't ask any more questions. Ask is preguntar. It's an AR verb, so you put the E on it. So it becomes no pregunte más preguntas. Love fully, sir. Love is amar. It's an AR verb, so you put the ER ending on it. Ame completamente, señor. Don't make origami. Hacer is make. So no haga origami. Put a sweater on the chair. Put is poner, becomes ponga un suéter en la silla. Don't have a miserable day is tener, no tenga un día miserable. Don't leave without saying goodbye. Salir becomes no salga sin despedirse. And then write a letter is escribir, escriba una carta. So that's the usted form. If we want to talk to a group of people, ustedes, for the ustedes form, follow the same steps, but you add the corresponding opposite ending for ustedes. So instead of the third person singular like you do with usted, you have the third person plural, the en form. So if you go back to you're going to use the e or en or a or an. So the a and the E are for usted. The AN and the EN are for ustedes. So here's some examples. Eat your vegetables, sir, becomes coman las verduras, señores. Don't ask any more questions. No pregunten más preguntas. Love fully becomes amen completamente. Don't make origami. All y'all, don't do it. No hagan origami. Put a sweater on the chair. Ustedes pongan un suéter en la silla. So that's usted and ustedes, and then we're going to talk about a third type of formal command. So sometimes we can give commands to a group of people that includes yourself. We're going to call these the nosotros commands. So in English, that's when we say let's eat or let's go. Let's. That's the nosotros command in Spanish. So you'll follow the same steps for other forms of formal commands, but you're going to use the corresponding opposite nosotros ending. So if we look back at our chart here, A and E are for usted endings, an and en are for ustedes, and then the amos or the amos are what we use for the nosotros command endings. So we'll take a few examples. Let's eat our vegetables. Comamos las verduras. So it's the amos ending, but it's of the opposite infinitive. So instead of comemos, that's we eat, comamos is let's eat. Let's not ask any more questions. No preguntemos más preguntas. No preguntamos más preguntas is we don't ask more questions. But no preguntemos más preguntas is let's not ask more questions. Let's love fully. Amemos completamente. Let's not make origami. No hagamos origami. Let's put a sweater on the chair. Pongamos un suéter en la silla. Let's not have a miserable day. No tengamos un día miserable. Let's not leave without saying goodbye. No salgamos sin despedirnos. Let's write a letter. Escribamos una carta. So there's a couple of complications as well with formal commands. With verbs that end in car, gar, zar, and here, you have to make spelling changes to preserve the pronunciation. So if you'll remember, the vowels E and I make the consonants C, Z, and G soft. The vowels A, O, and U make the consonants C, Z, and G hard. So it's pronounced, if it's C-E, it's se. C-I is C. If it's C-A, ka. C-O, ko. C-U, ku. So se, si, ka, ko, ku. He, he, ga, go, gu. So because it changes pronunciation depending on what vowel follows it, you have to be aware of some spelling rules. So if it's a C and you're changing it to make a command, you have to change the C to a QU. Because if we just left this a C, it would be practicen. But that's not the way the word is pronounced. It's practicar, so it has to be pronounced practiquen. And so you add a QU to preserve the k sound. Practiquen ustedes. The G, you just add a U to it, because if there was no U here, it would be navegemos, but the verb, the infinitive is navegar. So you have to preserve the G sound, so stick a U in it to make it G, naveguemos. And then the Z becomes a C, not for any good reason, because it doesn't change the way it's pronounced, but nevertheless, the Z becomes a C, empiece usted. And then with a here, a G-I-R, the G becomes a J to preserve the H sound, because the word is elegir, E-L-I-G-I-R, so that's elegir. So you can't just make this a G, because then it would be eliga, but that's not the infinitive. It's elegir, so you have to put a J to make it elija. And that is how you form usted, ustedes, and nosotros commands.